Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We have been considering the Kleshas, Klesha Parva, and today we are commencing to understand the Dvesha called Raaga. Raaga is attachment. To understand this Klesha, the Raaga, as it is so deeply rooted in the psyche of mankind in particular and life in general. See, it is simply the likes. There is no life in the world which is without likes and therefore without likes and dislikes. There is always something that is liked by any life form and disliked by any life form. When you have likes and dislikes, it implies that you have attachment and aversion. So, the klesha that has been spoken about now is raga, that is attachment. So, it simply is an affliction because of the likes and dislikes that is there in every life form. With human being, it plays a greater havoc. Because even if the subhumans, where you find likes and dislikes, they react based on their tendencies. So every subhuman has tendencies. It lives by tendencies. It is motivated and activated, and it responds according to its tendencies. Whereas mankind, the likes and dislikes are not only responded with tendencies, but also the human psyche, which changes from person to person. The intelligence that changes from person to person. Human being has something called as tendency body. And this is the most complicated tendency body that mankind has. The other creatures, other life forms do not have complicated tendency body. For simple reason that we have been seeing these cattle, animals, birds, various kinds of life forms from various insects and creatures and birds and animals to even plants. They all are life. They all have a life. They are all part of life on the planet. But their tendencies are not complicated. The cattle have been going after green grass for n number of millennia. The cat has been going after rat for n number of millennia. The snake has been going after rat for n number of millennia. So, these animals, they have been having those tendencies from time without beginning. The cattle have been going after green grass for all times, and that has not changed. The tendency of cow or buffalo or cat or dog or snake or elephant or lion has not changed. They have been same through the millennia, countless millennia. But that is not the case of mankind. Mankind is seen changing from generation to generation and from man to man. Because human being is said to be Karmayoni. And therefore human being has unpredictable range in conduct. You can have human beings who are worse than snakes and cobras and lions and tigers in ferocity on one hand, to we find human beings who are very, very saintly and godly. So human mindset has an enormous range within which we will call them all human beings. From greatest of brutes to greatest of saints, we find in human beings. We don't see such an amount of range in subhuman life forms, botanical to biological. So that is how the human psyche is so complicated, and the tendency body of human life form is very, very, very complicated. Not one is comparable to another human being insofar as tendencies are concerned. This is not so true about other subhuman species such as herbivorous and carnivorous life and biological and botanical life. We don't see such an amount of range and such an amount of variety which we find only in human mind. The point is, likes and dislikes are almost inseparable from life forms, be that any kind of biological life, very, very minute, very, very microscopic to very, very large and huge, or whatever kind of botanical life. We don't see these changes in tendencies. But in mankind, it is really unimaginable. So, all the subhuman species, in subhuman species, they would react to their likes and dislikes in a very predictable way and in very limited way. But about human being, it is very difficult to envisage as to how human being would be reacting to likes and dislikes. It would change from person to person, and even within a person, it would change from time to time. It is not that one person would be all the time reacting in a particular way throughout the life. That is also unpredictable. That is also undecidable. So human species is unique in that sense. So human being also has likes and dislikes. And because of likes and dislikes, there are attachment and aversions. You will never say, I like it, but that's the thing which I don't have attachment for. Or I dislike something, but I don't have lack of attachment. I don't have lack of aversion there. So if you like, you are going to have attachment. If you dislike, you are going to have aversion. So that is pretty certain. Where you have likes, you have attachments, and where you have dislikes, you have aversion. Now this Klesa is speaking about this attachment, one aspect of the two that we have so far seen in our prologue, and we are continuing to see that. So mankind would be reacting differently to likes. It is not just by tendencies, But the human being is also quite crafty. And therefore, how human being would be reacting cannot be really predicted. In case of subhumans, we can predict how it would react to its likes and its dislikes. Say, for instance, dog, its likes, how it would respond, its dislikes, how it would respond, horse, cattle, animal, beast. So we know if we know their likes, their responses are predictable. If you know their dislikes, the responses are predictable. But not in case of mankind. The human mind is very, very, very complicated. On one hand, the tendencies will be working. On the other hand, the crafty brain would also be fabricating something. So, therefore, it is very difficult to predict human reaction to likes and dislikes. The simple point to be noted is that subhumans go by their tendencies. They are conducted by their tendencies. They work under gravity of their tendencies. But human being Karmayoni, human being can also have a thought of right and wrong and not just likes and dislikes. We have likes and dislikes, but we also have a faculty to consider rights and wrongs. The subhumans don't have this kind of division in their minds, that their likes and dislikes are one thing and for them the right and wrong is some other thing. Because they are Bhogayoni, they are not in Karmayoni. So human being will be working under two gravities. One is gravity of likes and dislikes, and the other is gravity of rights and wrongs. So even if a human being likes something, if it is overpowered by the idea of right and wrong, and if that is known to be wrong, then perhaps the man will not indulge with the likes. So also is the case of dislikes. So if man has likes, there is attachment. Man has dislikes, there is aversion. When a man has likes, he has attachment for something and aversion for something opposite. If the man has some dislikes, there are attachment for something and aversion for something else. So, even then, when there are likes and dislikes and attachment and aversion, human mind is endowed with what is called as Buddhi and intelligence. So there is sense of right and wrong to be determined by human psyche. And that's why human beings also consider right and wrong pair and not just like likes and dislike pair. So human mind deals with both the pairs. Sometimes one overpowers the other. The former might overpower the latter, or latter might overpower the former. Therefore, the reaction would be different. So human psyche is very, very complicated for simple reason that human being is not just a biological being, but it is Karmayoni, which is diverged by the philosophy, Indian philosophy particularly. So, point is that every human being has some likes and some dislikes. That's one thing. But also, because there are some likes, because of the likes, there are some dislikes. It is not something that is disliked, has independent reason for that to be disliked, but then it can be because of what one likes. So we have two kinds of dislikes. One is because we like something, therefore we dislike something else. So it is relative dislike. It is relative dislike because we like something, therefore we dislike that something which is in juxtaposition or which is in opposition of it. So there is relative dislike and absolute dislike. So there are certain absolute dislikes we would be disliking for no relativity but absolutely disliking something. So between likes and dislikes that come to occur in human mind stands out differently, distinctly than which is there for other beings as well. Other beings also have likes and dislikes, but they do not have relative like and relative dislike and absolute dislike. But human psyche, being complicated because of what it is by status, so there is something like absolute like and relative like. Because I like this, I don't like that. If my liking for this increases, my dislike for that will increase. If my liking for that decreases, my dislike for this will decrease. If my liking for it goes away, then dislike will also go away. If my liking becomes my dislike will become my like. So ponder over this condition that we have in human psyche. So that is relative likes and relative dislikes. But there is something that is called absolute like and absolute dislike to a particular human mind. I am not saying that something is absolutely like and dislike for all human beings, but for a given human being, there is something that is absolute like or absolute dislike. In any condition, in any case, the likes are likes and they will stay to be likes, and dislikes are dislikes and they will stay to be dislikes. There is no relativity. So that is another thing that we have to be considering, that the likes and dislikes are relative and absolute. Both kinds of things are there. And then we naturally would be reacting to our likes and dislikes. You can try to carry out your own observation and survey. If you like something, how do you react? And if you dislike something, how do you react? So this reaction is something that is either based on tendency. One's tendencies. The tendencies will give you a direction to react, that you must react this way for your likes, this much this way for your likes, this much and this way for your dislikes. So that is because of the biological factors that we are human beings and biological beings. But human being also has something else to interfere, dabble with likes and dislikes. The fabrication of reaction in the brain will be another force. And therefore, how one is thinking about one's likes and one's dislikes would change. Therefore, we do not just go by our tendencies, but we also go by our thought process, our thought culture, our thought caliber. Now, this is not there that much in subhumans. They don't have such a thought process like human beings have. And that's why we know human being's brain is really something that really stands out from the brains of other creatures. Every creature has a brain. But then we also know today, because of the science, that human brain stands out in some or in great respects. While the other brains of various animals and birds and insects, they might be developed in certain aspects where human being's brain is not developed. But generally, human brain is the superior brain overall than the overall brain functions of subhuman beings. So how man would react is one is tendency which will extend gravity, and the other one which can be the human thought pattern, thought culture, that would also interfere or dabble with reactions, and therefore human reactions are unpredictable. So the likes and dislikes, if you look at it from one perspective, they are really making our life complicated, and they are not allowing us to go by our own ideals. You might have some ideals in your life, but the likes and dislikes really play a very strong role, that you cannot be going after your ideals in life because of your likes and dislikes. So likes and dislikes, let us now stick to the human mind, human brain, and likes and dislikes. So likes and dislikes play havoc. Of course, they play havoc even for other beings. They would be reacting differently. But human being Karmayoni, it is more complicated. And our life is becoming more and more complicated because of our likes and dislikes. The stronger likes and stronger dislikes, on one hand, to not so strong likes and not so strong dislikes, to nominal titular likes and dislikes, they really play havoc with our life. And then we end up doing any kind of karma which is going to implicate our life, complicate our life, complicate life after life. So now we are going to deal with this Klesa called Raaga, which is rendered as attachment in English. Now, how far it is apt will be known when you really carry out this study. But for convenience sake, the Raaga is rendered as attachment in English language. And that is coming at the third place of Klesa. If you recall, towards the end of the last session, I said that when man wakes up from the sleep, the first pravrutti or first motivation or first momentum is towards going after pleasures, reacting to pleasures, embracing the pleasures, like as I said, most coveted morning cup of tea or coffee. So we immediately identify our likes the moment we wake up from the state of sleep. So we identify our likes first, at the first instance. And therefore we will identify the relative dislike. Rather than getting up and identifying the first absolute dislike, we don't get up in the morning and declare our absolute dislike, but we declare we have expression towards our likes, such as cup of tea and cup of coffee in the morning. So we go in search of procuring our likes. That's the first pravrutti, that's called prathama pravrutti. So, prathama pravrutti of life is to go after pleasures, delights, and happinesses. The all living creatures are all the time going after their pleasures. And what is coming in its way, they try to wage a battle against it. It is not that one wakes up in the morning, or one creature or life wakes up in the morning and starts identifying who is my foe, who is my sworn enemy. So first we go for our likes. That is prathama pravrutti, to go after one's likes. And after a while we go also after vanquishing our dislikes, or taking measures against our dislikes and our objects of hate or hatred. But that is dvitiya pravrutti, not prathama pravrutti. So it's a lot of psychological purport in bringing raga after asmita. The I-ness, when it is coming to a wakeful state, the I-ness will first identify the pleasures rather than identifying the sorrows and worries and pains. But first we go for our likes. And that is why raga has come before. If there is a hypothetical question, why not dvesha considered first? But that is not the way the life goes after. Any kind of life, it first tries to become aware of the likes, aware of its attachments, aware of its likes, and tries to make a movement towards acquiring that pleasure. And in the way, if you are attacked, then that becomes your foe and you have aversion and you put up a fight with it. So dvesha is something that is dvitiya pravrutti, not prathama pravrutti. And that is why raga comes immediately after asmita. When the I-ness has blossomed, it will go after pleasures. And that's the tendency of all lives in all strata. Tiniest life form to human life form, or largest life form, it will always go for seeking its delights, seeking its likes, seeking its pleasures. And that is why raga comes immediately after asmita. Now what is this raga? Raga has been wonderfully aptly defined as sukhanushayi ragaha. As just now I told you that we go after our sukha. We go after our pleasures. That's the first pravrutti, prathama pravrutti. That we go after our pleasures on waking up. So sukha pravrutti is the prathama pravrutti. And therefore raga, which immediately follows happiness or delight or sukham, is called raga. Sukha anushayi ragaha. Anushayi. That which follows likes, that which follows delights, that which follows pleasures, that is being referred to as a raga, attachment. Wherever you have something, you identify something that there is pleasure for you, you invariably start developing attachment towards it. It is not possible that you have identified your pleasures but not the locus of attachment, because that itself is locus of attachment. So we first identify the pleasures, which is the tendency of any life on any strata. So sukha pravrutti is first pravrutti, therefore raga is also first pravrutti, because sukhanushayi ragaha, that which immediately follows sukham, pleasure, that mindset which comes out of identifying pleasure, getting pleasure, seeing pleasures, sighting pleasures, enjoying pleasures, that is attachment. That is raga. So even if we don't get our pleasures in the morning, we will be having first thought on our pleasures. The pleasures may not be acquired, may not be had, may not be received, yet they will be identified, yet they will be occupying our mind. So our sukha immediately occupies our mind stuff on waking up from sleep. And then what immediately follows sukham is raga. Sukha anushayi raga. Sukha anushayi. That which follows sukham is raga, is attachment. So understand the logicality in this order: avidya, asmita, raga. So that which immediately follows, almost it is hand in hand with experiencing pleasure or imagining pleasure or sighting pleasure or consuming pleasure, enjoying pleasure, that is called attachment. We always have attachment to something that we like. We have this klesa of the nature of attachment, or what is really called as raga, for what we like. We will not have raga for something that we dislike. We will not have attachment to something that we dislike and something that we hate, but we will have this raga for something that we like. And therefore, a beautiful definition. What is this attachment? What is this raga? So let's also, on psychological plane, let us put a question: what is attachment? Attachment is always our reaction of our psyche for what we like. We will not have attachment to something that is not our like. What is not liked by us, we will not develop attachment. But what we like, we invariably we have attachment for whatever degree, small degree to huge degree. So that's how attachment has been defined by Patanjali. So about this raga, now what is this attachment? This attachment means unique kind of thirst, greed, expectation, hankering, gravitating towards having that experience, or having that experience time and again, having that experience again and again. So if the sukha vishay is identified but you don't get sukha, then you will go for sukha. Then you develop desire for attaining it. So you develop desire, you develop hankering, you develop craving, you start gravitating towards it. And that will be there until you have consumed it. So the strong kind of like means you will have strong motivation to be having desire, etc. It will be very powerful desire that you will not be able to battle with it. But if it is a milder kind of like, then perhaps you can just overlook. Yet there will be some desire, but the desire will not be so powerful. But desire will be there. Of whatever magnitude, the desire will be there. Now the desire is not only for that object which is at sight or which is identified as your like. It is not only that you develop attachment towards that object, you also start developing attachment towards the instruments which will help you gain or procure that pleasure. So, Sukha Vishaya and Sukha Sadhana. So, objects of pleasures, you will develop desires, etc. Not only for object of pleasure that you will have desire, you will also develop desire, attachment for objects through which you are going to get satisfaction of your delights or procure, attain your desires. So, the attachment with regards to two things. One is that very object of pleasure, and the other one is the agency or instrument through which you will be able to procure that pleasure. You will have the attachment for both the Sukha and Sukha Sadhana, and you will start developing desire, etc. for Sukha and Sukha Sadhana both. That is also a point to be noted here, that it is not only that we have desire with regards to that object, but then also with regards to the instruments and agencies through which we will be able to procure the pleasures. So, Sukha Sadhana and Sukha. With regards to both, there is bubbling up of the Raaga or desire. So, there will be Sukha Lalasa, Sukhecha, Sukha Bhoga, Sukha Laulya, Sukha Pachad, Sukha Moha, and therefore it would really create enormous turbulence in the chitta. Just memory of pleasurable objects or just thought of pleasurable objects or appearance of pleasurable objects really create a turmoil in our chitta. And this will be beyond any argument. When pleasurable object has occurred to your mind, or it is at sight, or the thought with regards to that has come into your mind, there will be agitation created in the chitta. That is why it is a Klesa. The serene and quiet chitta is immediately stimulated for turbulence, and well set mind will be getting waves, ripples, etc. So it is going to definitely disturb the mind. The pleasures are pleasurable, but they also disturb our very mind stuff, because the desires are going to bubble up. And then when the water has lots of bubbles, there is a lot of disturbance on the water. Similarly, it can be considered as a klesha for simple reason that the moment a pleasurable object appears at sight, or you infer it that it is around, or it is gettable, or it should be gotten, then the mind stuff is disturbed. It will not be a quiet mind. It will be turbulent mind. And this can be understood psychologically, that it definitely creates a turbulence in mind, although that's an object of happiness, and by getting it you will get happiness. But before it gives happiness, so suppose we are fortunate that we have a object of delight identified, and then we are able to get it as well and consume it and have gratification. There is a lot of turbulence between sighting a pleasurable object and then consuming a pleasurable object. There is always a time lapse, and in that time there is a lot of turbulence in the mind by way of bubbling, by way of eruptions, etc., desire erupting, the hankering erupting. So there will be something which is going to create turbulence to our mind stuff, and therefore it can be also considered as Klesa, in the sense it is affliction. The mind is definitely afflicted. And once you sight that pleasurable object, then you want to attain it. Suppose the desire is very strong, by hook or crook you want to attain it. So then, therefore, you get into the activity of procuring it. If it is easily procurable, you will procure it, but you will have to take a step to have a hand at it and grab it. So you'll have to create some movement in you to go towards the object of pleasure and then take it. Then if you have difficulty in procuring it, then you will put up a battle. It could be a fierce battle in case the desire is very, 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 very strong, irresistible. If it is not irresistible, might be you will not make a headway towards getting it. But if it is a very strong desire, you are going to attain it by hook or crook, and then you will put up a battle. Fierce battle can be there. So you can understand how it's an invitation to a battle the moment you have likes. Therefore you have attachment, and therefore you have to equip yourself for any battle that might come up in that course between sighting it and then consuming it. So that's why on psychological plane we can see that it bubbles up spruha, ichcha. So all these things are ruffles on the consciousness, on the chitta, and therefore there is agitation. Then, as I said, is also for sukha sadhanas. That instrument or the agency through which you procure the pleasure, if that is little difficult, and if it is not in close quarters or not easily accessible, then again you will make a frantic effort to catch hold of the agency and engage the agency in getting your pleasurable objects to you. So see the whole course of activity that is going to take place just because you like it. Now that course of activity would not have come at all if you did not like it. Because there is something between likes and dislikes. It's not that either there are likes or there are dislikes. There is something that you like it, or there is something you don't like it. Now if you don't like it, it doesn't mean that you must hate it. So also there is something that you hate and something you don't hate. So there is something which lies between likes and dislikes. That is something that you don't like on one hand and something you don't dislike on the other hand. So you don't like and you don't dislike do not create turbulence in the mind, but what you like and what you dislike would create a turbulence in your mind. And then greater the degree of likes and dislikes, intensity of likes and dislikes, the greater will be the turbulence factor. So why it has been counted as affliction, and affliction in the sense we understand in psychological sense, it is affliction because it definitely disturbs our mind, it decomposes our mind, the mind is in desire. Once you identify something that you like, you will not be quiet until you really procure it and consume it and gratify yourself. So the battlefield is raised up in the mind just because you like it. This battlefield would not have been raised in the mind if you did not like it, or you did not like it that much, or you did not really like it. Then there would have been no battle. So because of likes, because of our desire, likes, we have desires, and then it can be ending up in a battle of some magnitude or the other. A small skirmish or a battle, huge battle itself. So that's why it can be counted as affliction to mind. All the pleasures help us overcome our afflictions of the mind, psychological mind. We feel contented, we get the satiety by gratification. Yet, between that point of identifying it and then consuming it, there is some time lapse. And during that time lapse, there is a lot of turbulence. So that's why, in psychological sense also, we can cite that raga or attachment is a klesha, is an affliction. Now here it has been counted as klesha for different chain of cause and effects. See, when you like something, you want to procure it. To procure it, you have to put some effort. You have to put some endeavor. You will have to do something. If you are doing something, that doing will be either virtuous or vicious. It might be a meritorious deed or it can be unmeritorious deed. So when you commit a merit, you entail delight. You create provision for delights subsequently. If you are indulging with something that is unmeritorious, you are making provision for your sorrow. So, philosophically it is put like this: because you have likes, you have attachment, raga. When you have raga, you have karma or akarma. You do something that you should do, or you do something that you in fact should not be doing. And that's how we procure our pleasures. The desire is so strong, by hook or crook we will procure, means we are doing even wrong things. See, we will do right or wrong to procure it. So when we are doing right or wrong, the right entails pleasure subsequently, and the wrong entails sorrow subsequently. So again, we will be creating room for prospective happiness and sorrow. So because of that, because of sukha dukkha, we are going to get again raga dvesha. Because of raga dvesha, we are going to commit to dharma dharma. Because of dharma dharma, we are going to accumulate papa punya. And because of papa punya, again we are going to get sukha dukkha. So we are caught in vicious cycle. So dharma dharma would be created because of your raga. Either you will procure it by righteous means or unrighteous means. So righteous, unrighteous means put together will create again some pain pleasure for you, and the pleasure will be there if it's a righteous means. So righteous means, let us see that we are discreet and we are not going to indulge with unrighteous measures. What righteous measures? So because of sukha you have desire, because of desire you have attachment, because of attachment you end up doing something, and let us say it is virtue. That virtue is going to give you again sukha. That sukha is again going to give you attachment. So you are going to get caught in that vicious circle. You can't really escape. And in spiritualism, this not able to get enfranchised or get released from or get dismounted from wheel of karma, it is a sorrow. It is sorrow. Therefore, even sukha is sorrow, because sukha is binding you. The sukha is a binding force. It binds you to karma phala. It binds you to karma phala, and therefore it is undesirable. So that's why it has been counted as klesha here, because it's going to bound you to karma vasana and karma phala. So in that sense, sukha has been counted as klesha. Now I recall a beautiful piece of passage in Bhagavad Gita. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगः तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो विजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. A beautiful passage has come in Bhagavad Gita. So when we have object of attachment, object of like, then we are constantly thinking over it. We start developing attachment towards that object. We start developing bondage towards the object. We start developing gravity towards the object. If it is liked object, you are certainly going to be drawn towards it. So that creates sangha. So you will develop sangha in order to satisfy your desires. Now when you are having attachment or sangha to something, you are creating room for anger. How? Because if you have attachment to something and something is obstructing you, something is impeding you, something is restricting you, something is coming in your way, you are invariably going to get angry. So sukha vishayas also imply that when you are trying to nurture them, you are also nurturing anger in you. Because for any reason, if you are thwarted from your pleasurable objects, you are refused the pleasurable objects, you are invariably going to get angry. So anger comes out of your attachments. Why are you angry? Because you are attached to something. And there is some obstruction for you to really get your attachments, and therefore you are going to get angry. Sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho vijayate. Now, when you get anger, that means sukha sadhana, sukha sangha is also going to generate anger potential in you. So we should understand this byproduct, which is quite devastating. Anger is always devastating. It is explosive force. So, krodhat bhavati sammoha. When you are angry, you lose the sense of right and wrong. While in anger, you really cannot be having your sense of right or wrong. It is really quite oppositely taken. When you are angry, you think something is right, and then when anger sets down, goes back, goes out, then you realize, no, this was not right, this was wrong. So the anger is going to give you indiscrimination in your mind for sense of right and wrong. So when you lose that sense of right and wrong, that means you end up in delusion, moha, and then mohat bhavati. Moha Shruti Bhaushaha, Shruti Bhramsha, Vibhrama. Shruti Vibhrama will take place, you will lose the proper sense of memory. Because right and wrong depends upon your experience. The experience will tell you that this is right and this is wrong. So experience is so important factor for right and wrong, that instrument or that organ to be developed. It needs a lot of support of experience. And then you will lose the memory that this is my revered person. If you are angry, you might end up with a bout with a person whom you really revere or whom you perhaps love. So you lose all that memory. That is the person who is revered to me or it is loved by me. You will lose all that sense of memory, sense of balance, sense of right. So you know what happens by anger. You lose the sense of balance, sense of right and wrong. You lose even your memory. And when you lose that too also, Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinashaha, then your decisive making organ will be in complete indentations from all sides. And that is the doom of all of us. When that is in such a state, the Buddhi Nasha, when the Buddhi is detonated, when the buddhi is having indentations on all sides, that is our doom. So see, the sukha can land up into your own doom. That's what the passage of Bhagavad Gita beautifully tells us. So that's the little primary understanding of Sukhanushayi Ragaha, the Klesa that we are discussing. Let us try to cast light more on this in our next session. Enough for the day. Namaskar, all of you.